In modern India, the festival of Diwali takes on aspects of the Western Christmas, a high point of the year when presents are exchanged and the countryside glitters with festive lights. Diwali commemorates the victory of light over darkness and goodness over evil. And Diwali too is timed according to lunar cycles. Every autumn, just a few days after the full moon, it moves closest to a cluster of stars known as the Pleiades. In fact, its true name, Deepavali, means cluster of lights, an obvious reference to the brilliance of the Pleiades constellation. But the history of our understanding of the heavens has generated more than seasonal and religious calendars. Modern superstition and supernatural connections between heaven and earth also have ancient roots in celestial events. And the heavenly event that has caused the most profound terror for so many down through the centuries is the eclipse. Eclipses are a consequence of cosmic alignment, when the sun, moon and earth fall precisely into line. A solar eclipse results from the moon coming between the earth and sun. And when it does, it's among the most breathtaking and awe-inspiring of celestial events. Even today, as the sun seems to disappear from the sky, many feel an unmistakable sense of wonder, reverence, and utter dread. October 1995. Part of northern India faces a total eclipse of the sun. Today, for eclipse chasers travelling thousands of miles, the promise of a few precious moments bathed in the twilight of the moon's shadow has become a pilgrimage of deep mystical significance. The sky is transformed into a cosmic light show as time seems to stand still. The once brilliant sun is slowly extinguished until all that remains is a great black disk surrounded by a pearly halo and magnificent streamers of light.
Looking at the shadow coming at 1,000 miles an hour and just, it's over you. And then you turn around and it's like a bullet in the sky. The diamond ring was spectacular, and it just makes me cry every time I see one. It just does something.
And grown men crying is
right. It's worth it.
It's at least weird.
I had sort of butterflies in my stomach. I couldn't believe it.
We're kleptomaniacs.
Even in 1995, in the face of the total eclipse, newspapers reported the Prime Minister of India chose to go abroad rather than risk the possible dire consequences that an eclipse is said to portend. For thousands of years, an eclipse of the sun has been considered a harbinger of great evil. In ancient times, dragons were believed to cause the eclipse by eating the sun. The moon, too, can be eclipsed when the earth lines up between the sun and the full moon. A lunar eclipse was considered no less an omen of evil doings, generating panic and great fear as the moon turned a menacing blood red in the night sky. Rarely, if ever, was it believed a harbinger of good fortune. The modern world boasts any number of unscientific, mystical belief systems derived from heavenly events. But even some of the earliest civilizations understood the cycles of the moon and its effect on the oceans and tides. Dr. Susan Blackmore studies the inevitable clash between ancient beliefs about the heavens and the rigorous methods of modern science.
Ancient peoples would have noticed the relationship between the moon and the tides. That much is obvious, but the precise relationship is actually very complicated. And in order to understand cause and effect here, you have to understand the structure of the solar system and the exact relationships between the positions of the sun and the moon and the earth. Then you can draw up, as we have now, modern tide tables, which will tell me exactly what time the water's going to be here and whether I'm going to drown or not. That's what makes the difference between really effective science and vague and waffly beliefs.
From earliest recorded time, lunar cycles have generated all sorts of strange beliefs, especially bizarre claims surrounding stories of the full moon. Once again, it's the human mind itself that seems preset to make worldly order out of heavenly chaos.
It's not at all hard to collect anecdotal reports that the full moon induces strange behavior in human beings. The brain wants to make sense out of the world, but it doesn't always use all the good scientific tools at its resources to make that happen. And so instead, what it does is relate things that seem to be connected. And in this case, people remember in a very selective way. They remember the times when it was crazy in the emergency room and there was a full moon.
Miami, Florida. In the trauma unit at Jackson Memorial Hospital, the medical staff is keenly aware that tranquility and sanity are severely strained on nights of the full moon.
Oh, that's why we were so busy today. There was a full moon.
A full moon seems to bring out everyone.
We will have a terrible day because it's Monday and a full moon.
It just seems to be that on a full moon, our calls tend to pick up more than they usually are.
It's a full moon. Let's get crazy.
So far, nobody's really uncovered any effect for lunacy or for the full moon. There have been several studies. In fact, we combined results from 37 studies back in 1985, came out with zilch results. We've looked at the studies since, and so far, there has been no reliable effect. Yes, it's true that sometimes people get a full moon effect, sometimes they see an increase during the new moon, but it all averages out so that you have about the same amount of emergencies, homicides, insanity during the full moon, during the first quarter, third quarter, and fourth quarter.
Ancient beliefs about the mystical cause and effect relationship between heaven and earth apply to more than the sun and the moon. The stars in the night sky captured the imagination of our earliest ancestors, whose lives were to become ruled by the glittering specks of light that formed a vast mural from horizon to horizon. From earliest time, the most well-known celestial portents of doom are the comets that blaze across the heavens. In 1997, many saw the V-shaped tail of Hale-Bopp as a sign from above. What must the people who built Stonehenge have thought some 4,000 years ago when it last appeared? Fear of comets as portents of doom is a recurring theme throughout history, as regular as the passing of the most famous comet of all, Halley's Comet. In 1066, when England was overrun and conquered by the Norman French, a comet appears in the famous Bayeux Tapestry. But comets have also been considered the bearer of good tidings. Giotto placed one over the birth of Jesus in his famous Adoration of the Magi. And stars in the night sky too can be said to bring good tidings. To the ancient Egyptians, the sight of one star once a year was believed to have a critical influence over their entire earthly well-being, heralding health and prosperity for the coming year. Once each year, the Nile floods its banks, fertilizing their farmland and assuring a bountiful harvest. And Egyptians came to believe that one special star was responsible for this recurring act of great fortune. Sothis was the Egyptian name for the star we now call Sirius. They noticed there was a time each year when Sothis could be seen rising in the early morning, just before dawn. Soon, like clockwork, the Nile would flood, and Sirius was celebrated as the heavenly herald of Egypt's prosperity.
That floodwater meant life to Egypt. That's what permitted it to sustain its agricultural enterprise. This also occurred close to, not right on, but close to the time of the summer solstice. So the Egyptians could see all of these things apparently coming together and figured there must be a connection and Sirius must be part of the picture. And so they, in fact, describe Sirius metaphorically as the goddess who, in fact, enticed the Nile out again each year and helped bring life back to Egypt.
The Egyptians inherited their understanding of the heavens from even earlier civilizations that developed in the so-called Fertile Crescent in what's now Iraq, then known as Mesopotamia. Here, in a land without stone, they built the first towns and once great monuments called ziggurats from the first mud bricks, much like those still used today. They were also among the first to map the pinpricks of light in the night sky. On these tiny preserved stones is carved the original zodiac, invented in Mesopotamia and passed down through the ancient Egyptians to modern day. It was here in Mesopotamia, when man first attempted to track the stars above, that the two great paths of understanding the heavens began to emerge: the science of astronomy and the beliefs of astrology.